If it's in your mind, put your mind to it and make it happen, because you will enjoy the most precious parts of your life that you've never, ever intended on. You just thought about it, but until you act on it, you'll never know. Then you miss out if you didn't do it. And Carol's doctor actually almost prescribed her overlanding, because when she came in, as soon as we got back into town, she had a doctor's appointment. She said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. It has a mesh floor where something can't crawl in on you.
That's good.
And it still allows the water to drain out. Yeah.
That's good. I can't do the crawling. No crawling. Listening to the GHT Overland podcast.
You are awesome. And now it's time to escape into the GHT Overland podcast. Thanks for joining the crew as we discover new adventures, learning from experienced overland travelers and adventure enthusiasts just like you, as we share their campfire stories, experience, and insights. It's not just pure classic overland adventure anymore. We're chasing a variety of adventures in remote, wild places only explored by adventure seekers much like you, with guts, with grit, and by those who exemplify the finest in human nature with a deep love for others, along with the wild beauty of our world. Do make note, this is the grown-up adult version, not soaked in explicitives. However, we're no longer removing those passionate raw words that sometimes are just the way we and our guests express exuberance.
This episode is brought to you by GHT Overland. We're now recording a new YouTube channel of our adventures. Our first full introductory episode goes live Sunday morning, December 12th. We will be focused on quality over quantity as we get started, focused on recording the beauty of the wild places we visit with minimal conversations by us. In addition, we will record a series of overland cooking by myself, along with in-person interviews with fellow overland travelers, a bit later down the road. Just search GHT Overland on YouTube. We'd love your support. At minimum, please take a second to leave a rating on iTunes with anything from a one-word review to whatever you're feeling. You hear it on every podcast, so yes, it's that important. Without constant iTunes love, we're just a sludge at the bottom of a lost cold coffee cup. You can also support the show on Patreon. As time goes, Patreon will be the place we upload higher quality videos than YouTube allows, inside data on places we explore and love, along with pre-release downloads to our primary content. GHT stands for gratitude, humility, and tenacity. These are our three primary pillars of life. Taking it to the next level, we're adding in the rest of our pillars. With love at the core, purpose is our foundation, and no matter the obstacle or challenge, we always continue to move forward. And now you know, yes, it's the mysterious little logo you sometimes see in a post, on a video, and tattoos. Thank you for joining us as we pursue a renewed life mission of putting the best in people and nature on display, while tackling the Goliath of today by consistently placing positivity and respect for others in front of everything else.
So I think my tears are just now starting to dry after that. That was hilarious.
I'm glad you found it funny.
Well, if you don't find humor in life, what do you find?
The creepy, crawly, flying bugs.
True. They're the opposite of funny, right?
They can be.
Unless you're doing a dance, that would be cool. Doing the samba.
Oh boy.
Centipede samba. It could be a new thing.
I don't think he was talking about a centipede.
What do you think he was talking about?
Well, if they're in a dry desert area, I visualize a tarantula.
Oh my gosh. Okay, no wonder you were all freaked out.
Exactly.
And coming from a girl who grew up mining gold in Idaho for the summers, that's what always throws me off.
I know, we only had mosquitoes and no-see-ums.
And no what?
No-see-ums.
What is that?
They're little tiny flying bugs.
Oh, like gnats?
Yeah.
What? Where did the no-see-ums come from?
Well, they congregate around water. So they're always like flying around you.
That's awesome.
Roy and Carol were a lot of fun. Some great insights and stories too.
Yes. I think a week or two with them would definitely be a lot of fun.
This week we have the perfect episode for your Christmas adventures. Through the woods and over the river to whomever's house you may be traveling to.
That was pretty good. Can you sing that?
No, that's as far as my singing goes.
To whoever's. Oh, that's good.
Well, from keeping the bugs at bay to bear spray stories, we hope you enjoy this episode with Roy and Carol of North Texas Overlanding Adventures. They sold their final business in April of 2021, leased out their home, and moved into their 2015 Jeep Rubicon.
Carol is a retired former corporate executive. Roy is a retired truck driver and heavy equipment tow operator, living their best life while adding value to others' lives. This is an awesome episode as we learn how overlanding has been the most therapeutic experience of their lives.
For all of you listening this week of Christmas 2021, Merry Christmas to you. We wish you many blessings of health and happiness as all your plans for overland adventure come true.
Roy and Carol, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time to connect with us today.
Our pleasure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So you guys just wrapped up 5.5 months of overland travel in the U.S., and if I got the numbers right, you were somewhere just over 19,000 miles that you drove. And I think now that you're back home in Texas, is that right?
That is correct.
And then, Carol, you had mentioned in your bio that you retired as a corporate executive. Can you give us a little inside view? What kind of work did you do before?
In the corporate world, I started in management and ended up in a director of operations capacity. So I was traveling with a company it's a global company, and I travel quite a bit from a work standpoint.
And then, Roy, I believe you were a truck driver and or a heavy equipment tow operator. Can you give us a little more insight on what you did previously?
We did police calls for the local area that we were in.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I also towed Greyhound buses all across the United States.
Oh, wow. That's a heavy load.
Yeah, very heavy. I would be about 110 feet and right at 125,000 pounds.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. How long did you do that?
23 years.
Holy cats.
And most of the buses I went to get were wrecked. They were involved in an accident.
Whoops. That's a lot of Greyhound buses and wrecks.
Yeah.
I think it's safer to be in a Jeep. So what kind of, and you guys also had a business previously, as we did. What kind of business did you run before?
Yes, we had a commercial and residential cleaning company and operated that for several years, and it just kind of grew hand over fist year after year to where it kind of got to a point to where, you know, I was defeating the purpose of being retired from corporate America. So, yeah, we made the decision to move to retirement and start exploring travels for our personal desires versus work-related travels.
That's really awesome. So then where did the idea of overland travel come from?
Mostly just really wanted to get into the thick part of creation and, just go where the path was less traveled. So we began exploring, different things in off-grid aspects and realized that we didn't want a permanent domicile. We wanted to be able to be mobile and do it. And so that's how Radioactive came about, and we began equipping her before we retired so that we had all of our major purchases completed. Hit the road full time May 1st of this year.
Yeah, that's really cool. So tell us about Radioactive. I'm super curious where the name came from and then why you chose a Jeep as your platform opposed to any other vehicle.
Well, originally I was looking at a Toyota. A friend of mine told me of a dealer in McKinney, Texas, that had several Jeeps. I should go look at them. And to back that up a little bit, I went to a police call in McKinney, and a man totaled his Jeep. The following day, or that night, he came to our impound yard, wanted to get some of the stuff off the Jeep. And I said, unfortunately, I can't let you have anything unless your insurance company puts a release on it. And the next day, his insurance released it. He came, he took off his rooftop tent and a few other things, but left half the stuff on the Jeep. And he said, if you want it, you can have it. I didn't even own a Jeep at that time. So I started stripping this thing, and I said, I got to go find a Jeep now. So the next day, I went and bought a Jeep.
That's awesome. And so where did the name Radioactive come from?
Well, a friend of mine that does own a Jeep, he has one that says Jurassic Park on the side. And it was nearing Halloween at the time, and COVID had just, really, started going on. I was like, so I have to kind of up him. So that's how I came around with the Radioactive and the COVID-19 response team on the door. I just thought it was kind of like perfect timing.
Yeah,
and great. I was actually going to take the COVID off, and everybody's like, no, don't do it. It's perfect. We love it. So it's still there.
And of course, it's orange is our favorite color, yes. So our Jeep follows suit.
That is really cool. Yes, it is bright. You can definitely see it from a long ways away.
Yeah, we definitely can't get away with anything.
Yes, my son said y'all could never commit a crime. They would know who you are.
Way back in the day, I actually had a orange Ford truck, and I really liked it because when I went hiking and I got lost, I just had to look down the hill and I could always find it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm pretty familiar with a Jeep because we have one as well. But for the sake of our listeners, and if you've made any modifications, if you would, how much fuel can you carry? How far have you found that generally takes you? And how are you calculating your fuel needs since you spend so much time off the road?
Well, we carry 20 gallons of fuel in jerry cans, and we approximately get about 300 miles in 20 gallons. So
we can go about 625, 600.
Yeah, about 600 miles with our Jeep full, and then filling up the 20 gallons of reserves we have.
Okay. And have you found that works pretty good for you based on how much off-road travel you guys do?
It does. We don't actually use all of it. We could probably let 2 of them go. But I wouldn't want to take that chance for the areas that we travel.
Not to mention gas prices.
Yeah, the gas prices. We usually find it cheaper somewhere else. So I'm carrying cheaper fuel on me. So we use a couple apps that, help us find better fuel prices.
Okay. What are those apps that you're using?
One of the main ones that I use is Gas Buddy.
Okay.
And how much water do you carry with your filter options?
We carry 25 gallons of water that we can use, and then our system that we use for, you know, kitchen sink and shower and things like that, we always try to be near a flowing freshwater creek because we can basically have our unlimited supply of water pulled from the creek for showers and things like that.
And do you tend to filter your water for drinking?
We'll boil it.
We do boil it. We have tablets, things like that if we need to. We've not been in a position to where we've had to necessarily get to that level because we have our fresh water that's good for drinking. And some, you know, that we carry in those 25 gallons. So we try to pull water that we need for like washing dishes and showering, stuff like that, that's not from that potable water. And then we're, you know, popping into an area for whether it be restocking food or
Freshwater fill up.
laundry or whatever about every 7 or 10 days so we can restock when we're in town.
Cool. Okay. Sounds good. And then can you give us a little idea? Have you done any upgrades on your electrical system?
Electrical system, we pretty much are stock. We do have the Optima battery system, and then of course we have solar that we use for our needs.
Okay. Can you give us an idea, kind of an inside view on the solar system?
Yeah, we went with the Jackery 1000. It comes with 2 portable 100-watt panels that we can fold out, and then we also have it's a 100
It's a
or
100-watt
200.
Yeti.
It's a 100-watt Yeti
The
briefcase that we can actually hard mount to the trailer.
Okay. Gotcha. Is that working out pretty good for you?
Yes.
It's actually saved us a few times, the Yeti.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the refrigerator, what kind of refrigerator are you using?
We have a 65-quart Whitner.
And how does that, where do you have that installed in the Jeep?
It actually is going to be installed on the front of the new trailer that we have.
Our last trailer, and let me give you a little breakdown right quick. We just switched trailers. We had a trailer that we built, and it worked perfect for the time that we was using it. But we've just currently switched trailers, and we are in the process, as we speak, installing it on the front of our new trailer.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then, do you have a separate electric system on the trailer, or do you just use everything off from the Jeep?
Just the Jackery has worked amazing for us.
Correct.
Now, there's days that obviously you don't have sun, so you have to go to plan B, and that's where the optimal battery comes in as plan B.
Correct.
Okay. And have you guys set up any additional like heating or cooling system?
Yes. Heating, we actually have a diesel heater. We started out with a buddy heater. We still have that, you know, for just something that like quick type of heat, but more dry heat is better. So we went ahead and went with the diesel heater for heating. And then for cooling, we actually have the Zero Breeze. So when we are in a situation where climate is not something we can kind of tuck away from or get on a mountain to get into cooler temperatures, we can always run that.
And it works quite
Which
well.
is a solar powered, battery powered air conditioning system. It's a full air conditioner, portable.
That is super cool. What kind of diesel heater do you have?
It's the Chinese
knockoff brand. Not necessarily proud that that's the one we picked at this particular juncture, but we purchased it a couple of years ago.
And it's been working great.
So what's one thing that you have taken with you that you find absolutely indispensable that you would not remove from your vehicle no matter what?
The most indispensable, we've thought about that, and
I'm going to go with our Jackery, our Joolca, our rooftop tent, recovery gear, and our bug out bags.
Joolca, what is that?
That is our portable shower and sink system.
with a hot tap, so we get hot showers wherever we go.
Oh.
And that's why we choose, when I am looking for locations, all locations that I look for have a fresh water source. I tend not to look for lakes because it's more of just a sitting water. I like the flowing aspect. It's a little bit cleaner. And it comes with a line that you can toss out into the water, and it will pump it up to your system. And as soon as you turn your water tap on, you have instant hot water. And you can adjust it to the temperature that you want, and you can adjust the flow of the water. And it also all collapses into a tub, which therefore is your sink as well.
Right, and there's a filtration that goes on the end of the hose that we throw out, so that sediments and things don't come into the water that's being pumped from the creek.
Okay, so you'll need to send us a link.
Absolutely.
On exactly what that system is. It sounds super cool.
Yes, it is very cool, and we also have the ensuite double that goes with it, which is basically a shower room and a dry room tent that pops up like literally 30 seconds, 1 minute flat. You have the whole thing set up because it's like an umbrella. You just like pop it up and it's
totally enclosed.
It
has a mesh floor where something can't crawl in on you.
That's good.
And it still allows the water to drain out. Yeah.
That's good. I can't do the crawling. No crawling.
Yes.
I'm not real wild about it either.
Yes.
So it really works well. And it's a mesh around the edges. So you have a solid floor in the center, but the edges, they're so fine, it just allows just the water to flow.
Yeah, it allows your gray water to flow. And then, of course, you have the other side of that zips closed so that your dry room stays dry. So you have your changing room on the other side, and it heats that room while you're showering from the hot water. So you stay.
And when you're in the middle of the forest and it's 30 degrees and you just took a hot shower from a creek, it is like super nice to be able to go into that next room and it still be warm till you get dressed.
All right, we've just added that to our list.
And on our system, we use a 20-pound propane tank, and you can get 18 hours of continuous hot water. Now, that lasted us 2 months, and that's cooking and showering.
Right.
That might last Lisa a week.
I recommend the Joolca Nomad kit.
Yes.
And the double ensuite.
And I will tell you this, the customer service at Joolca is above and beyond outstanding. Our pump that comes with the unit has went out twice. The first time, no questions asked, they sent us another one. Second time, I can understand their point. Can you send us a video? They're not, quite sure. We sent them a detailed video, and they immediately sent us another pump.
Yeah, they immediately knew what was wrong with it and sent us another pump out.
Then our tent, our shower tent, it's a good quality tent for the price, and the zipper quit working. No questions asked. They sent us a whole new tent. So the warranty of the product and the customer service, I don't work for them at all, but it's just words can't describe it.
Yeah. And I'll throw in a tip for listeners too, because when you're out on the road traveling like we were, you don't really have a home base, or you're very far from a home base to receive things like that. And a lot of people, try to figure out, well, gosh, I'm going to have to wait until I get back home, and that's going to be months or weeks or whatever that is. But actually, you can receive any mail or parcel at any post office in the United States via general delivery. All you have to do is basically put your name, care of, general delivery to the actual post office address, and you can go and pick that up when it arrives.
That is a really good tip.
You just have to have your ID with you.
So I can still get online and order things and have fun and have
Absolutely.
No, she cannot.
Absolutely. Amazon is my friend too. I hate to say it and push that plug, but I mean, I even ended up deciding to go all out and ordered a Tempur-Pedic full-size mattress and had it delivered to me at a post office, and I set and custom fit it to the back of the Jeep so that we could have an inside sleeping option inside the Jeep for when we needed to pull into a Walmart or something like that.
We didn't want to pop your tent
out. And it far beats the cot or the air mattress or things like that. Air mattress worked great for us for a while. We had a custom fit one of those, but the core just doesn't last for long-term use.
I just visualize it as fluffy and comfortable. You just don't want to get up.
It is.
All right. With these amazing items that you've added, is there anything you originally packed and never used or removed?
Probably overpacked on like kitchen equipment things that I would cook with, and I have to have this pan or that pan, and one of our larger Dutch ovens that are obviously heavy. We never used out on that trip. We were able to suffice with the smaller things, and that's where I think overpacking happened for us, because weight is very important. Your payload it's huge. So that, and then the other thing was shoes. We had our hiking shoes and our shower shoes and things like that. But then it was like, we'll grab a couple of pair of tennis shoes for each of us, and you really just need really your hiking shoes and your comfortable shoes. So those were really the only things that were not necessary, taking up space.
Got it. And so for planning, what kind of planning do you do for each leg of your trip?
Planning, that is Roy all day. He obviously has been a traveler, so
on each route. And I don't ever go too far ahead, because if you go too far, your destination is set on your mind, and that's where you are trying to get to, and you miss the things that you're passing. So, I would use Earthmate, that's on my Garmin. I would use Gaia, then I would use Google and combine them together. But to stay off the beaten path, I always went with my Earthmate or Garmin.
And how successful were you in finding those off-road trails where you weren't doing a U-turn all the time?
Well, it was quite easy. That's where I would use Google, because Google's going to try to route you the fastest way. So I would put in my destinations, and how it would route me is where I would jump off of it, and that's where I'd go back to my Gaia, and I would do my drop pins on Gaia, and that's how I would route us that way, just to keep us on gravel or off-road. Just, I didn't want to be around the busy highways.
Okay, cool. And that worked out pretty good for you?
Worked perfect.
Correct. Okay. And the nice thing about Gaia, too, is you are very, very clearly able to distinguish whether you're on public land or private land by utilizing their map system or just opening it up just to verify, because quite interestingly, we were in several places where it's a huge national forest, but yet there was private land intermixed within it or inside it, and you want to make sure you're not on private land.
No, Gaia has like 120 different layers What layers did you
Yes.
tend to use most?
And the typo, NVUM, public lands, BLM, access. And Gaia can be extremely confusing when you're first starting off. So I would suggest to everyone to use YouTube as your best friend when you're researching this to learn how to use it, because it can be confusing at first. At first, I was really upset about getting it. Then once I started messing with it, and each day I still learned something new with Gaia. But Gaia has a lot of options that others don't, and it has a few things that others don't. So it can be a very good tool. You just need to learn to use it.
Okay, cool. And then do you guys use like an Inreach or a Spot for emergency communication when you're off-grid?
We do. We have a Inreach Mini, and we have the monthly $49.95.
Yeah, it's unlimited package.
Unlimited package. And that way our kids, they're nosy. They want to know where we are so they can track us, you know. And also, if you need to, hopefully, God forbid, if you ever need emergency services, it has an SOS button on the side. And they will communicate with you to, depending on the type of situation, the type of response that they send to you, up to a helicopter.
And before we get to the need of satellite communication, of course we have our AT&T plan with our phones, but we also are equipped with a WeBoost. So if we have access to any form of cell signal, the WeBoost can kick in and amplify that signal for us so that we could have a little bit more traditional means of...
If you're within reach to the...
Right.
To the box.
How much of a difference have you found that makes?
It definitely makes a difference. Now, is it something that, is huge difference, like going, being at home and kind of comparing it to things? No, but as long as you have a signal.
If there is a remote signal anywhere and you're close enough, it will definitely raise your antenna bars on your phone.
Correct.
But we have been so far out, it doesn't matter what you have unless you have satellite.
Correct. As long as you have a faint cell signal, if you got one bar, you're going to get boosted. You're going to get boosted on your
cell.
Basically your analog text and cell communication as far as talking and texting a lot more than you are on your data, but you're still going to get some kind of data boost as well.
So it could make the difference between being able to get a text out or not being able to.
Exactly. It's definitely the case.
And now there's been several places we've been that was a useless piece of equipment because we were so far out.
Right. Then that's when the Inreach became our only form of communication.
Which is super nice because we've stayed in multiple locations throughout our trip. And we stay 3 to 5 days at a location. You get there and you have no service, but you've already marked it. And that's where you're staying. It's still nice just to have that in the back of your mind. If you need that assistance, it's there.
That's really cool. So speaking of being way out there, any really fun or crazy stories from your 5.5 months?
We have definitely a couple of very rememberable locations. I definitely have a unique kind of crazy blooper story, but I guess we could tell you about our our fondest locations.
As long as we get to that blooper story.
Yeah. We'll get to the blooper story. I'll let Roy tell you a little bit about the first gem we found.
We were heading in. We just crossed into Colorado out of Durango. No, we're not in Durango.
We'd left Pagosa Springs.
Pagosa Springs. The town was very unique, very cool, but smelled horrible. So it's like, we can't stay close to this town. And it's because of the sulfur in the springs. But it was horrendous, the smell. So we started west, and we got 15 miles outside of town. And it was one of the destinations I'd picked. And it's just north of Chimney Rock. And we're started down this road. We get about 4 miles down it, road closed. Did not know that. Didn't show it on anything. So we're at the end of the road, and I go up and read the sign. It says closed indefinitely, boulder in the middle of the road, size of a F-350.
Ooh, that's big.
Well, we'll just set up camp right here. Huh. So as we're sitting there, we've got camp all set up right on the river. About an hour into our camp, we started hearing all this noise, and a very large group of rafters were coming down. And all their boats are banging the rocks. That's how close we were. Come to find out, they were recovering a body out of the river, and they brought it up right by us. And the next day, the Forest Service comes out to clear the road. They cleared it, and we made it back to this bridge called the Forestry Service in the area called it the $8 million bridge to nowhere. It's 12 miles to the very back, but words cannot describe the beauty of this area.
That 12 miles was amazing.
It was absolutely unbelievable. One lane, certain places to only pass, or there would be no, it's one-way traffic. You get to the very back, the Forest Service built this $8 million concrete bridge, and it crosses two rivers kind of together that come in an angle together. And you literally get to the other side, and it ends. It doesn't go nowhere else. And as we're back there, just the beauty and the solitude of nature was just unbelievable. But the Forestry Service, when we were there, I was talking to him because we had not been able to find bear spray. And I asked him if the bear spray really works. And he said, well, I've been with the Forest Service 25 years. I can tell you the two instances I've only had to use it my whole life. He said, the first time I used it on a bear and the second time I used it on a man, and he said, both times worked great.
Oh. Oh, boy.
And I said, well, I'm curious about the man story.
Of course you are.
He said, well, let me tell you about the bear one first. He said he was a blaster, and his job was to drill the rock and blast it. They take a backhoe and push it offside. And he said the bear was coming down off the mountain about 25, 30 yards from him. By the time he could get it out, pull the pin, and deploy it, he said that grizzly hit the brake so hard he spun around. He said his tail hit my arm. I said, that's all interesting, but I want to know about the man story. He said, well, we were clearing a road, and this guy got completely irate with them that they weren't clearing it fast enough, and he was going to go get a baseball bat, and he was going to clear it for them. So he didn't understand if they was going to come attack them with the baseball bat or what he was going to do with the baseball bat. He said, but I wasn't going to give him a chance. He said, I sprayed him as soon as I saw him. He said they waited till the Forest Service Rangers got there and arrested him, but clearly they could tell he was on something. But he said the bear spray works. And now we have 4 cans of bear spray. We had went to Yellowstone multiple times, and they had this instance we were there. We were filming, and I told Carol, we just got back into the Jeep and we're pulling off. I said, turn your camera on and film them. And as soon as she started filming, this guy from India got down in front of this buffalo's face to take a selfie. And the buffalo's tail stood straight up and knocked him about 20 yards maybe?
At least.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It threw him across the parking lot. So the goal is, when you're in nature, do not play with the wild animals.
No.
Just look at them.
They're fierce. They're fiercer than you can ever plan or prepare for.
But we caught it all on camera, waited for the forest rangers to get there so we could make a report, because I didn't want them to come back and say a wild buffalo attacked him and so forth.
Yeah.
So it was a learning experience for him, and it was a learning experience for us just watching it.
I call that natural selection, but either way, I guess it's okay.
Don't play with the animals. Then Carol has another story that I'm not real wild about, but she likes.
Oh, that's after this gym.
Oh,
But my gym, as far as location for, just I would go back over and over again, is the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's the most beautiful terrain I have ever explored. It's very scenic, and in my opinion, they have the best off-road trail system in the United States. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles of trails. So designated that they'll even have like signage across the trail, kind of like if you were going under a bridge and it tells you how high the bridge is, but the signage will say, if you want food at this restaurant, or
it would be just like if you're on a highway.
Yeah, it'll tell you that there's gas off this way or whatnot if you kind of needed, certain things. So it's very sophisticated. But
and there's an app for it too.
Mm-hmm. But yet, being in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan also makes you feel like you've stepped back in time about 25, 30 years.
That's true.
It just really is a unique situation, and the things to explore up there. I mean, just numerous waterfalls, lighthouses. It's just a must-do. And Lake Superior is named Superior for a reason. It's unmatched. There's nothing that can even come close to the quality and the beauty of that lake.
All right, so that's really interesting. But as Roy said, I'd like to hear about the blooper story.
Okay, so we were in Colorado, and, we always want to check, our overstock, batteries and different things. We were going to go into town and stop at one of the hardware stores, and he was looking through everything, and he goes, well, we're going to need to get some double D batteries. And I stopped for a second, and I'm like, huh? And I said, you mean some D batteries? And he goes, no, we need some double D batteries. And I'm like, I mean, I know some double Ds, but they're not batteries. How about we go to the hardware store? And so I said, when we go to the hardware store, I'm going to let you ask for the batteries, because I want to make sure you're getting the batteries that you want. And so I recorded it going into, I was like, he seriously thinks that there's double D batteries. And so I made him go in and ask him for double D batteries. And the guy's like going over there and he's looking at all these D batteries. And he's like, you mean these? And I was like, yeah, you mean the D batteries? And he goes, but there's a 2 beside it. I said, because it's got 2 batteries in the pack.
Oh, Roy.
I don't buy many batteries, obviously.
That's awesome. So did the clerk give you a weird look at that point?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was already blush in the face.
That's great. Okay, so today, what has been that number one biggest challenge you faced, and what did you learn from that experience?
Well, Roy will actually talk a little bit about that. That was the challenge.
In San Juan National Forest.
In Colorado, we were, about 8,000?
No, we was closer to 10.
10,000 feet in elevation?
I had found this trail, planned it out, already had it marked. I did not take into consideration trail dates for opening times. So we take off and we're rolling, and we get about 30 miles into this trail. There's a vehicle coming back down the trail, and he pulls off to the side and he says, man, you can't make it. Snow's too deep. I'm like, well, okay. So we pull off, check my map. Well, I find an alternate route. And the guy said, oh yeah, that one's open. It's just further. He said, it's 80 miles further. It's like, okay, well, we carry plenty of fuel, so no big deal. We turn around, take off. We're literally the first people down this Forestry Service road of the year. We're cutting trees, clearing. We get 97.5 miles from the time we turned around down this trail around the top of the other backside of the mountain. And we run into 4 foot of snow and get stuck. Being a wrecker operator, I already made that clear in our travels. We will not get stuck long. Unfortunately, where we got stuck at, you could see the trees, but you couldn't reach them. So our Max Tracks became our best friend and a shovel. So be very cautious when trailing and check seasons when doing so to make sure them areas are open.
Yes, and it took us 2 hours because we had to do a lot of digging because we got high centered. But one of the challenges of that is that the snow on those trails are kind of like the top of the iceberg. Beneath that snow, you've got the melt coming down off the mountain. Well, they kind of create divots or ruts through the road system, and in some cases you take a step thinking you're stepping on the snow and going to go down to the road, but you end up going much further because the trail is washed out below too. So yeah, we learned a few things, but we got out of it. It took us a few hours.
We did it.
Did you continue going forward and get to where you wanted to go, or did you have to turn around?
We did. No, we didn't turn around. We kept going. And we got about another hour down to the end of the trail, and was where we were planning to stay the night anyways, and ran across two guys that how they got to where they were, I have no clue how they pulled it off. They were stuck, but they were even further than we were. I had to winch them out. They didn't speak any English, and it was a major language barrier, but I still have no idea where they went or how they got there.
Yeah, they were in a two-wheel drive car, like a Nissan car.
Yeah, I could not believe it. Just blew my mind. Yes, that's what I said. What?
Just like, how does that vehicle get here?
In the nearest, we were at that point about 120 miles from anything. It was, we talked about that for 2 weeks. Still couldn't figure that out. We're in a jacked up Jeep, and don't know. Couldn't believe it.
And then you guys were obviously towing the trailer. Do you know how much the trailer weighed?
I do. It weighed 4,000 pounds.
Oh,
it was
wow.
heavy. And that's what got us stuck.
Yep.
Yeah, I bet.
The trailer.
High centered. Mm-hmm.
That's why we don't have that trailer today.
Okay, very good.
Upgrade on the trailer.
Yes, we made a pack from that day. When we get back home, this trailer's gone. And that's exactly what we did. We got back. Within a week, we had our rooftop tent and trailer sold.
And we went and bought another
And we went
one.
and bought a new one, new tent, new trailer. Half the size.
Yeah, so I'm trying to reorganize.
What trailer did you get?
It's actually a home-built trailer, but it's built off the military spec trailer, the M10102. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
But it's completely different setup, and it's so far. I have to look in my mirror just to see if it's back there. And it's a year old. He's used it. The friend of ours that built it, he built it just to go to the beach and camp, and it wasn't getting the proper use for it. And he said, "I'd much rather y'all have it." And he saved it for us till we got back home, and we have started doing modifications to it, and it's just going to get better from here. But I have to check my mirror to even see if it's back there. That's how light it is. But the space that we lost in our other trailer, we're having to make up for it on our roof rack. So that's where we've come to our DIY side and has formulated some ways of storage on top of our Jeep using military crates, ammo cans, versus Rome boxes, because Rome, you're going to spend the money on them. Mm-hmm. And these military crates, they're military grade, and we got them for near the cost.
And then what tent did you go to?
We went to a Easy On. They're made in Johannesburg, South Africa. They're one of the founding companies that started rooftop tents.
Have you been able to use it yet, or?
We have. We used it last weekend. I've opened it multiple times since having it, and 100% impressed with the quality of it versus the one we had.
Going back to your bio, it sounds like Carol is slicing it up on the meal section. Can you give us a scoop on your kitchen setup and at least one favorite recipe?
Yeah, I mean, we basically have a Coleman stove and a Coleman oven, and we also have a Tempo Test Scottle. So it just kind of depends on what we're cooking, but I guess a few of the frequently requested things that I cook out is my chicken fried rice, which is kind of Benihana style, if you will.
I know, my.
And then salmon patties and the fixins. And then my famous barbecue chicken pizza.
You just made my mouth water.
It's only 9 o'clock here, and I'm hungry.
I'm all ready for supper.
And of course, on Sundays we got to have the full spread with biscuits and gravy, and you name it.
That's the nice thing about having the oven.
How are you set up for your kitchen to be able to do all this?
We actually have an awning that has a completely enclosed
attachment tent that goes and clips on and zips.
So it's kind of like if you will, an annex room for a tent, but it's not attached to a tent. It was off the side of our trailer. So on one side of the trailer that you see in the big trailer that you see in some of the pictures we sent you, that awning would come out off of the side where my kitchen was, and my drawer would fold down, and I'd pull my stove out on the ledge of that. We made it flat surface so I could just cook right there, and then the door next to that was the slide-out refrigerator. And so all of my canned goods and spices and everything was stored above in the spot where my stove was.
And the nice thing about the trailer setup, it could also, if the weather was nice and you didn't want to have to put your awning out to cover you for roof, you could do it just like that. Or if the inclement weather, you could put your awning room up and your kitchen is right there indoors.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's sometimes, we pull into Walmart and I'll just whip up some lunch before we hit the road again, without putting out the awning. Just drop down the drawer and cook right there on demand.
So based on your previous lifestyle where Roy was on the road a lot working, and now you guys are together 24/7 in a Jeep, any tips for other couples out there? What have you found that works for you, and making sure that you get your alone time if you need it, and keeping your sanity?
Right. That's always important.
I go chop wood.
Nice.
Or I read a book.
But yeah, exactly. Being together 24/7 has its challenges at times. But really, bottom line is communication's key, on what each other's needs are. Roy's more of a morning person, so he gets a lot of his quiet time in that time of the day when I'm still sleeping. And then in the evening is when I get my downtime. So, he'll go either chop his wood or, hang out more by the solo stove. And, I'll just go and unwind, get in the hammock or crawl in the tent and, just do my own thing.
Okay, very cool. So next to road stories and for some reason how you manage bathroom duties, understanding your finances and how you're able to finance your trip is probably the number 3 question that most people have.
Absolutely. I first and foremost, I highly recommend Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover program. And this is to just really resolve debt and savings beforehand. It's something that even before this has kind of helped be a catalyst in a lot of different adventures I've done in life. But, just really being able to make your money mind, his kind of thing is live like no one else so that later you can live like no one else. It really is true. But we're retired, and, we have, basically a set monthly budget, and if we decide that we want to do something over that budget, we typically supplement that expense by finding, A side gig, Roy typically will use coolworks.com. They have great, just kind of day labor or seasonal type things for people that do travel a lot. Actually, ironically, in one of the areas that we were in, near the Grand Tetons, he was actually on site, begged for a couple of days before we were scheduled to roll out to take over a camp host position. So those are some options for people that want to get into traveling and have some kind of income while they're on the road. Kind of matches up with the ability to be free to travel and roam about.
And so for the 5.5 months that you were on the road, can you give us an idea what others could expect and what that expense would be per month?
Well, I guess it would really kind of boil down to, what are your fixed costs that you're going to have. Just because someone packs up and leaves to travel doesn't mean that they don't still have financial obligations that they still have to pay. But for us, that probably that comfort zone of a monthly budget is usually somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000, just depending on what season we're looking at as far as taxes coming up, etc. But we stay hardcore with the budget, and
we stick to the free BLM National Forest where you don't have to pay. Mm-hmm. And like I tell everybody that we run across out on the trail, they're part-timers or just out there camping, they want to do it full-time. Mm-hmm. I tell them, your fuel is your rent.
Right. And of course we have some costs that are associated to that set monthly budget that's not necessarily a cost for us to be traveling, but it's a cost that we have to pay because of whatever financial obligation that might be outside of overlanding, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool. That's super helpful. That's a big one that people really want some detail on. So it's going to be different for everybody. And I really like that idea, Roy, that your fuel is your rent, and to kind of change your mindset around that. That's really good.
Yes.
Out of our travels, maybe 4 times we paid for a campground.
Yeah.
And the one time that we did pay, that I knew we were going to pay, the other 3 were unexpected due to weather, and so you have to just plan, but again, don't plan too far ahead, because then you'll just be scatterbrained, and your number one goal is to enjoy nature, enjoy your freedom. If your goal is just getting to A to B to C to D, and that's your focus, you're not in it for the right thing.
Right. And before we skip away from finances, it's very important to say that emergency fund is key.
Yeah.
It's very key. We figured out, kind of roundabout what number an emergency fund was minimum for us to always have, to make both of us feel comfortable, to where we're not feeling any specific concern or worry or, something just dragging us mentally down. And obviously that emergency fund number is going to be different for every person, depending on if they still have financial obligations back home while they're on the road. Obviously, if there's not any of those obligations, your expense to be on the road would be much less. But you got to be prepared for the random radiator that needs to be replaced, huh, Roy?
Absolutely.
There's subtly a message in that right there.
Oh, that's really
and
good
thank
advice.
God we had the money set aside just for that.
Smart.
What advice would you give your 10-year younger selves?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess it just kind of sticks with my core being, and that is material things can consume us in more ways than we can even begin to think about. So, act to limit those things so that you can use your resources to create experiences and memories, because it's all about adding value to your life and to others' lives. Because I'm going to be reflecting on those experiences as I age versus what did I acquire.
Those are just materialistic things.
Exactly.
That will sit there and collect dust.
Yeah, it's the priceless things that you want to invest in. And although there are things in life that we have to have, the necessities, we got Maslow's hierarchy of needs going here, but outside of that, people get so consumed with, they've got to have this specific vehicle or bigger, better vehicle.
I mean, we've told people, you don't have to have a Jeep. You don't have to have a, this or that. You don't have to have a Mercedes Sprinter van. You can overland in any vehicle. I mean, yes, there are going to be limits to certain vehicles, but you can still get out there and do it, and you can still get out there and have fun and enjoy life.
And 90% of the things that we have, we basically purchased good used quality, and DIY'd it. There are some things that we knew firsthand that we needed to invest in, such as the Inreach and some of these things that are going to be important for our safety. But those things we made sure we purchased outright before we launched our full-time adventure and became more restricted financially.
If you could put any message on every billboard in America, what would that be?
Wow. I mean, my life's mission is to add value to others' lives. So it's going to be somehow incorporated along those lines of, wanting to do that not only for yourself, but for others out there. Is what you're doing adding value?
And helping people along the way. If there's any way that we could do it, we were more than willing to give them our advice, what we've learned and the do's and the don'ts for us.
During those 5.5 months that you guys were out there, anything specific that consistently restored your faith in humanity?
First off, overlanding travel is probably the most therapeutic experience of my life. But the people that we've met is not like from our former setting or our former lifestyle. They're so in tune with nature. They're pure. They're helpful. They're very encouraging. And
it's like a community.
It's a community that is very, it's almost kind of goes back to that old adage, it takes a village. The overlanding community is a village that takes care of everyone. It doesn't matter. We could be on the side of the road and other people that obviously see us, that they're doing similar things. They're stopping and asking us, and likewise, we've done the same. And, how many times have, you seen, maybe I've had a flat tire and I'm out there changing my tire by myself when I was going to work. Not one person stopped to ask if I was okay. It's just kind of the way our world has kind of
and we make
moved.
Sure that we do stop and ask.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Roy and Carol, this has been awesome. Let's wrap it up with some fun facts about you. Do you guys sing or play any instruments around the campfire?
No. If I was a sing, it would be a solo or a tenor. Solo, you couldn't hear me, or 10 or 12 miles from here.
And if we're sitting around the campfire, it's usually something that I'm cooking, so it's seconds on the lips and forever on the hips. But
Chris's eyeballs just popped out. That's a good
one.
Mostly when we sit around the fire, we've always had company, whether it was other campers. I invite people over and we just sit around and talk and learn about each other.
Yes.
And we've actually became really close friends with a handful of people, and about five maybe we stay in contact
Yes,
with.
we do.
So, I mean,
Nice.
I mean, unless we are solo, we're out there by ourselves, then we're like reading or we're doing something. She'll do the Rubik's Cube. She plays solitaire.
We have base camp cards too that have like random questions on it. So sometime we'll divvy those up and people will go around and just kind of ask the question for different people to answer. Or in the group, we may have ended up recruiting someone that is artistic and can play and sing. And it has happened a few times. So. One
guy was actually in a process of getting recording contract.
I know, so
nice.
We get serenaded sometimes.
Yeah.
What's a favorite drink in the morning to get you guys going?
That would be for me coffee.
And for me, unsweetened tea.
It's a nice pair.
And that's a majority of my day.
No, Mountain Dew is a majority of your day.
That's the second part.
What's that favorite beverage at night to wind down after a long day?
That would either be for me iced coffee or a Mountain Dew.
And for me, it would either be a flavored LaCroix water or a glass of red wine.
Ah, relaxing. What's your best advice to aspiring overlander travelers and adventure enthusiasts that are listening right now?
Oh, gosh.
My best advice would be, if it's in your mind, put your mind to it and make it happen. Because you will enjoy the most precious parts of your life that you've never, ever intended on. You just thought about it, but until you act on it, you'll never know. Then you miss out if you didn't do it.
Right. And to kind of piggyback on that, I would just say that time is our most valuable asset. Spend it wisely and make sure you're doing it to live the purpose that you want.
And Carol's doctor actually almost prescribed her overlanding, because when she came in, as soon as we got back into town, she had a doctor's appointment. She said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, you look younger. I go, what? How do I look younger? She goes, you don't have as many wrinkles on your face. I'm like, shut up.
To be out there and enjoy nature, enjoy what God has given us, and take advantage of it, but also leave no trace.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it cleaner than you found it for the next person when they get there.
Yeah. How can people learn more about you?
Well, I would encourage them to go to our Facebook page, which is North Texas Overlanding Adventures, and we have lots of information there. We've probably posted more on the Facebook page than we have of our other social media platforms. However, this next run that we're going to go out, we're fixing to head out on an 8-month journey. That one will be probably more involved with YouTube and some of the other social media. So on the Facebook page, we do have a Linktree link that you can go to so that you can follow any other social platforms we're on.
Any more information you'd like to give or useful resources our listeners should check out?
Well, we can send you our links to the products that we have, and that way you can have them to share them.
Where is it you guys plan on going next?
Well, when we leave here, our route, I have us going. She's never been to Graceland. She's never been to downtown Nashville.
And as a caveat to that, we are museum junkies,
Yes.
just so you know.
We are museum junkies. We have hit museums from New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming.
Right.
But
when we head out,
this time, we're going to make our way towards Graceland, then to Nashville, and then we're going to hit the Smoky Mountains, and we're going to jump on parts of the Trans-American Trailway that runs across from east to west. Then we're going to circle back so we can be at the More Air Overland Expo in April. Then from there, Kentucky, and then to Missouri. Then obviously the Upper UP was very special to us, so we plan on going back there and spending quite a bit of time. and we didn't get to make it to, was it Dobson Island or Davis Island?
Gosh.
I can't remember the name of the island, but it's just outside of Mackinac.
Sault Ste. Marie.
Sault Ste. Marie. Okay. Beautiful island. I looked it all up. We didn't get to make it, but we're going to make it this time. And we're going to do more of the back roading through Michigan. Then eventually we're going to make our way back west over towards Montana, Idaho, Wyoming. Then from there, once the season starts winding down and getting back into winter, we're going to go down towards Sedona, Arizona. That's another one on our bucket list.
Following the better weather. I like it.
Yeah, sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and that was one of the things when we first started this. I said, we're going to go where big people don't sweat.
It's a good plan, Roy.
We're going to follow the cooler
And to
air.
whom are you referring, big people?
Well, it's clearly not to Carol
I'm
because
speaking
she
for
is so
myself.
much less wrinkly now.
Yes, I'm speaking for myself.
Oh my gosh, this is
The
awesome.
Mountain Dew did not help me.
There's someone that does like the cooking.
Yes, I do like the cooking.
Oh, thank you guys.
So.
This is awesome.
It's been a lot of fun. You guys are a hoot, and a lot of really good information.
You guys are going to be hitting the road here coming soon, so you'll just have to let us know where you're traveling about.
Yep, absolutely. We will keep in touch, and hopefully we can cross paths and sing around the campfire.
Absolutely.
I'll give it a shot.
I just don't know who's going to do the singing.
We definitely have music alternatives.
Okay. It's awesome. Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas. And we will be back in touch reasonably soon.
Thank you.
Sounds
It was
good.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure speaking with y'all.
Absolutely. Pleasure's ours. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.